And to think, Warner Brothers will put this movie in theater, but they'll just delete all of Batgirl? Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to Grizzly Reviews. My name is Garrett. Today, we are going to try to review Joker Folie Fully a dump, if you will. DC is back in theaters with the new Joker movie, directed by Todd Phillips. You've got Lady Gaga, Joaquin Pheonix, Brenden, Gleeson in this movie. The cast is stacked. Is the writing good? We'll talk about it. Arthur Fleck is institutionalized at Arkham, awaiting trial for his crimes as Joker. While struggling with his dual identity, Arthur not only stumbles upon true love, but also finds the music that's always been inside him. So I have seen the first Joker. I reviewed it when that movie came out. I own it on Blu-ray, but unfortunately I never felt compelled to re-watch it until the lead up for Folie. And my hype level was kind of high for this movie. You know, the casting of Lady Gaga, finding out that they were gonna do a musical for this movie. I was intrigued, I was excited. I wanted more of a movie that fit my aesthetic and personal likes than what the original Joker movie had. But unfortunately, Folie did not hit anything I wanted out of this movie, outside of some good vocals by Lady Gaga. It's aggressively not a musical in the way a musical should work. Like, none of the songs progress the plot. They're really just vibing with the characters as they sing a song, slightly about what they want, slightly about what they're going to do if Joker wins this trial. But really, this movie was a lot of nothing. It was a lot of just patiently waiting for something meaningful to happen. I sort of get what Todd Phillips is going for and the deconstruction of Joker as a character, or Arthur Fleck in this case, and then the deconstruction of the first movie and the fans that enjoy it. Like, why are you rooting for this person? He is obviously mentally ill and kind of an idiot. He's not some conniving crime lord who's gonna take over Gotham. Not to say that Joker is a crime lord, but like, Arthur Fleck is not a smart character. He is driven by his emotions, and that leads him to do very stupid and impulsive things. And then he also doesn't realize his effect on others, which is something I really liked about this movie. I liked the courtroom drama and how Arthur is forced to see what happened in the first movie from other people's perspectives. I'm talking about Zazie Beetz' character and Mr. Puddles. Those are two great instances of characters that were affected by Arthur, and they have real life trauma now because of it. Zazie Beetz' character had to move away to another state, and Mr. Puddles is just fully traumatized by seeing a murder happen in front of him. So there are some good ideas in this movie. It's just the execution is terrible. This movie is 2 hours and 18 minutes, and I sort of didn't feel it completely. I was kind of into the movie for the most part. I was enjoying the relationship that built between Lee and Arthur. Like, that was a really fun dynamic, and Arthur actually finding someone who wanted to get to know him and also understood him at the same time. But then the movie slowly devolves and chips away at the character of Lee and how much of it was a fantasy in Arthur's mind. And I really just don't understand the motivation of Harley Quinn in this movie. And the ending does not help. I'll get into it later in the spoiler section because I do want to talk about spoilers for this movie. But it's just deeply frustrating for the movie to just flip its head at the very end and be like, oh well, like, you thought this movie was gonna be one thing, but it's another. And I feel like Todd Phillips wanted to attack the audience of the first movie very purposefully, and it's sort of alienating everyone from enjoying and having a good time with this film. Cause yeah, there's good stuff about it. The cinematography, same with the first one, is fantastic. I don't really know why this movie was filmed for IMAX when it didn't hit like that big cinematography level that the first Joker movie had. Sure, there's some good shots, but it's also, you're stuck in Arkham a lot. You're stuck in the courtroom. Any the outside shots of Arkham or Gotham itself are really cool. Like, Arkham looks great. I love the design for Arkham State Hospital and the island it's on. I would love to see like a Batman movie with that Arkham building. I think it's very cool. It's kind of giving me the Arkham Knight series or Lego Batman Arkham in ways that I particularly really enjoy. And the music is fine. I love the instrumental tracks for each song, and then Joaquin Pheonix and Lady Gaga have some good vocals, but it's also just like, why is this a musical if we're not gonna go forth with it being a true musical? 90% of the songs are a fantasy of these characters and what they're having that takes away from the reality of what's going on, when a musical is a musical within the context of the reality you're seeing. You don't have to switch to a separate fantasy to have these fantastical musical numbers. As a musical fan, it irked me a lot, and I get why Todd Phillips is doing it, but I don't like it at the same time. There was a surprising amount of DC lore in this movie. There's a character I'm not going to spoil that shows up, and I was like, oh, you're gonna have this character show up in a Joker movie, and this is kind of their origin story as well. Like, you kind of got that in the first Joker with a young Bruce Wayne and Thomas Wayne, of which I don't think they make any mention of the Waynes in this movie, which I feel is a big detriment. I would have liked to see what happened to the Wayne family after they got killed, assuming that happened in the first movie, because it's really hard to tell what is actually happening and what isn't in that film. It switches a lot between the fantasy of Arthur and the reality of what's happening in the first Joker movie. This one is more streamlined. Any fantasy elements aren't really happening in like a separate timeline. Like, the fantasy elements are the musical numbers. You're not getting like a disassociation and Arthur believing things are different than the way they were. Lee is a real person in front of him who is genuinely interested in him. He's not forcing this connection like he did with Zazie Beetz in the first movie. Forcing, imagining, I'm not sure exactly what to call it. Performance-wise, I still think Joaquin Pheonix is fantastic as Arthur Fleck. And Lady Gaga is pretty good as Harley Quinn, but again, I just don't know what to make of that character. I would have liked to have been more in her perspective in this movie, especially if this is a character that is all over the promotional material and posters. Like, we got some, but it's all her perspective on Arthur and the trial. It's not really like her motivation, unless I just completely misread that. But I'm not really gonna take anyone being like, well, actually, because I think the movie should have been making it more clear for me to get that. Alright, we are going to jump into some spoilers, so if you have not seen Joker Folie or Deux, just skip to this time down here to avoid any possible spoilers. I'm going to completely ruin the end of this movie, so turn away or skip ahead if you don't want to be told, but I'm gonna get into it now. So what happens in this movie is kind of what happens in the first film, but you're kind of getting the perspective from the Murray Franklin character in the first Joker movie. Now Arthur Fleck is a big TV personality. They are putting his trial on TV for everyone to watch. And so there are some inmates that are watching this trial happen, and they get this fascination and a fanatical want for the Joker. And then when Arthur Fleck decides, no, I'm going to be representing myself for this trial and go into full Joker makeup, he is assuming the role of Joker for his performance. By the way, was anyone else getting Benoit Blanc from Joaquin Pheonix when he was doing his lawyer stuff in this movie? I could not unhear him trying to do Benoit Blanc from Knives Out or Glass Onion. I don't understand why the character was doing that. I get why he was doing British talk when he was making fun of Mr. Puddles, but he would just switch accents like this, and it made it very incoherent, and I don't know why Joker was trying to do that. But anyways, So this movie is really about deconstructing the idea of Joker and how Arthur Fleck really isn't the titular Joker that we're gonna get from like a Batman movie. This man kind of is just an idiot who reacts very emotionally, but is also a very mentally ill and disturbed person to where he has no guilt or remorse for anything he does. And eventually, during his closing remarks, he does say that he killed these people as Arthur Fleck. He killed another person. He admits to that sixth person, his mother, that he killed. And he says that, you know, the Joker is just some face that he puts on. It's like a personality that he decides to put on in front of Arthur Fleck, which I thought was a really good way for this character to go, in him realizing what he did to other people, how it affected them. You know, it was some growth, it was some change. And then when the jury is telling them whether he's guilty or not, a car bomb goes off. Someone titanias the walls of the courtroom down, and Arthur escapes. You know, he has some Joker fanatics that are helping him get away, and then he decides to just run to find Harley, who, after Joker says that he doesn't want to be the Joker, really, that he isn't the Joker, she leaves. She's over. The fantasy for her is done. He is just Arthur Fleck to her now, and she really doesn't care about Arthur. She really just cares about the Joker, which is a fun twist on the normal Dom Joker submissive Harley role. It's more Dom Harley trying to manipulate Joker into being her man. I think that's how I'm supposed to read the Harley character, but I'm not sure. And Joker gets caught, he is put back in prison, and the very last scene of the movie is deeply infuriating, but I also, at the same time, get what Todd Phillips is going for. Arthur Fleck is told that he has a guest waiting for him at the state hospital. So he's on his way there, and another inmate who you've seen subtly around the movie kind of just build his fascination with Arthur, very interested with the trial, and he repeats the line that Arthur says to Murray Franklin before he kills him.
I'll tell you what you get. Tell the police. Get what you fucking deserve.
And then he stabs him in the gut, and then Arthur seemingly dies on the floor of the state hospital, seemingly. End of the movie. So I get what Todd Phillips is going for in the cyclical nature of the Joker moniker and the fanaticism that happens when you get kind of these heightened villainous characters that the public puts in front. This is why when you get like teen school shooters, we shouldn't be saying their names, because that's giving them an identity and agency in the situation. When they are the villain, we should not be putting them on a pedestal. And in the context of Joker Folie, this is what happens when you take yourself off that pedestal. The people who were your fans are going to turn on you. Same with Murray Franklin. Arthur put him on this pedestal, and then Murray Franklin just made fun of his comedy and him as a person. And that's what got Murray Franklin killed, and that's what got Arthur Fleck killed. So I get what Todd Phillips is going for. There are consequences to your actions, Arthur, much more than you just murdering people. You assumed this identity that people built up, and then you said, actually, I'm not. And of course you're gonna get killed. So it's infuriating that that's how the movie ends, but I understand why it happened. It's just unfortunately not an enjoyable movie. I think that's how I'm supposed to perceive the ending of this movie. Like, that is fully in my mind, my thought process to how this movie went. So if you have a better understanding of this movie, or if you want to share what your perspective of what the ending is supposed to mean, please let me know in the comments. I will gladly engage in that conversation. Don't just come at me for hating this movie, because, I mean, everyone is hating this movie. And I think we have reached the end of my review for Joker Folie. It is definitely a movie. It is stylized. It has some good performances. The writing is hard to say whether it's good or not, because again, I think I get what the director and writers are going for, but that's purely just on my own, like, assumption of what this movie is supposed to mean and what the direction this movie takes at the end. It's kind of boring. It's way too long. It feels too much of a rehash of the first movie. Though it does have some really good, compelling ideas, it just fumbles almost every single instance because of its ending. Not surprising, I'm gonna give this movie a low score. Joker Folie à Deux is going to get a 6 out of 10. It's really saved by some really nice cinematography, and I don't think I'm ever gonna want to rewatch this movie again, ever. Like, it's gonna be difficult for me to want to own this movie, as well as most of the recent DC movies that we've gotten. I just haven't felt the urge to want to add them to my physical collection. But again, please let me know in the comments what you thought about Joker Folie à Deux. What were you expecting? How did you feel when you left the theater? Tell me everything. I'd be happy to engage. If you like this video, please give it a like. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe so you know when all of my new videos come out. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.